Most fresh graduates think interviews are about giving the perfect answers. Sometimes the hiring manager already decided before you finished answering. Not because your answer was wrong, and there are things interviewers notice within minutes that candidates don't even realize they are revealing. Your attitude, your reactions, your energy, your honesty. I am sharing this based on personal experience because I've sat on both sides. I was once the fresh graduate trying to survive interviews, and years later I became the person interviewing fresh graduates instead. Here are 7 things hiring managers quietly judge that fresh graduates often never realize. 1. Grades only gets you into the room. Yes, companies look at your grades, especially when you have no working experience yet. But many fresh graduates misunderstand what grades actually do. It is a filtering criteria that helps you get shortlisted. That's it. Because once the interview starts, some hiring managers stop caring about grades surprisingly fast. Now they're evaluating something else. Can I actually work with this person? I've seen candidates with excellent grades who immediately felt difficult to communicate with. And I've seen candidates who felt practical, easy to talk to, and willing to learn. After a certain point, many managers would rather hire the second person because good grades impress briefly, but difficult personalities exhaust teams repeatedly. So if your grades are not outstanding, don't walk in defeated. The room is more level than you think. 2. The evaluation starts before the interview. Many fresh graduates think the interview is just that 1 hour in the meeting room. It's not. The interview often starts much earlier. How much effort did the candidate put in before showing up? Did they research the role, understand the company, read the job scope carefully? Or did they just click, apply 20 different jobs and hope for the best? Interviewers can usually feel the difference surprisingly quickly because preparation is not really about impressing the interviewer. It reveals something else. How much effort did you put in preparing for this interview? So before you walk in, know what the company does, know what the role involves, understand how the role actually helps the business, and have genuine questions ready about the work itself. That alone puts you ahead of more candidates than you expect. 3. I don't know is sometimes the better answer. Many fresh graduates think saying, I don't know, makes them look weak. Sometimes fake confidence hurts them far more. Here is why. Experienced interviewers have sat across from hundreds of candidates. They have seen people confidently answer questions they clearly did not understand. And after enough of that, they start trusting honest answers more. Sometimes it's simply the person honest enough to say, I'm not fully familiar with that yet, but I'm willing to learn. Because interviewers are quietly asking themselves, if this person is not honest in our first meeting, can I trust him in future? That question matters more than the answer you give in the room. So practice saying, I don't know comfortably, then explain what you would do next. That combination is more powerful than a rehearsed answer you barely understand, because it tells the interviewer exactly what kind of employee you will be when the real problems appear. 4. Your final year project is an ownership test. Interviewers love asking about final year projects, not because the project itself is so important, but because project discussions reveal ownership very quickly. And this is where many fresh graduates lose ground without realizing it. Some candidates explain everything using we. We developed this. We solved this. We implemented that. And what the interviewer wants to know is, what exactly did you do? So some interviewers intentionally keep asking deeper questions until they discover what your contribution really was. That moment tells the interviewer everything they need to know. Either the candidate was barely involved or stronger teammates carried most of the work, and this person just showed up. Neither is a good signal for someone you are about to invest training time into. Other candidates naturally explain what they owned, what decisions they made, what problems they faced, and what went wrong. Notice that last part, what went wrong. Candidates who can talk honestly about failure and how they handled it feel more trustworthy than candidates with a perfect story, because real work is never perfect. Skills can be taught, ownership usually cannot. So before your interview, review your project and ask yourself honestly, what did I specifically own? What decision did I make alone? What went wrong and how did I handle it? Prepare those answers as your own, not we, you. That shift alone will change how the interviewer sees you. 5. Wanting a job is not the same as wanting this job. There is a huge difference between wanting a job and wanting this job. Interviewers can usually feel the difference surprisingly quickly. Some candidates sound like they just want an offer from anywhere. Others sound genuinely curious about the work, the team, the industry, and what the role is actually like day to day. That changes the entire feeling of the interview. Because hiring managers are not only evaluating skill, they are evaluating interest level too. Because interested people usually learn faster, value the opportunity more, and push through difficult early months better. And genuine interest usually shows up naturally in the questions you ask, in the follow-up curiosity, in the energy you bring into certain topics. An enthusiastic candidate can sometimes beat a more skilled candidate who clearly doesn't care much about the role. So ask real questions. Think about what you actually want to know about the role before you walk in. Ask what the day-to-day role actually looks like. Smart questions are memorable. That curiosity is visible. And yes, it absolutely affects hiring decisions. 6. How you leave the room is still part of the interview. The way you show up physically throughout the interview matters. But where most candidates completely lose it is the final few minutes. Most candidates mentally check out the moment the interviewer says, "Do you have any questions for us?" They ask something generic, or nothing at all, and then they leave. Avoid doing that. These final few minutes still matter. This is where your prepared questions and your natural reactions during the conversation start to matter. It shows you are engaged all the way until the end of the interview. After you walk out, hiring managers discuss candidates, and the candidates people remember are usually the ones who leave behind meaningful conversations. Sometimes one honest reaction becomes more memorable than an entire polished interview. Something simple like, "I didn't realize the role involved that much client interaction. That actually sounds interesting." You don't need to be impressive at the end. You just need to leave them with a clear sense of who you are. Because the interview room empties quickly, but impressions stay longer than candidates think. 7. Rejection is not always the final answer. Rejections hit harder than people expect. You think the interview went well, and then the email comes. You didn't get the job, and it feels final. But here is something most candidates never find out. Hiring decisions are not always as permanent as they appear. Sometimes the first choice candidate negotiates too hard, walks away, or accepts another offer at the last minute. Then the company revisits the shortlist weeks later for a new opening. Some candidates who were not selected the first time get called back weeks later because the situation changed. So if you receive a rejection, respond with courtesy. Thank them genuinely for the opportunity and their time. And if the role genuinely felt right, something simple like, "If there's a future opportunity, I'd welcome the chance to come back." That one sentence keeps a door open that most candidates quietly close themselves. What matters underneath the interview? Graduate interviews are not really about proving you know everything. Most hiring managers already expect gaps. They are trying to find someone they can trust to grow. And sometimes, the candidate who gets hired is not the smartest person in the room. It's the person who feels safest to trust with future problems. I know this because I was once that fresh graduate sitting in that chair, trying to figure out what the person across the table was really thinking. Now I've been that person across the table, and this is what I was actually thinking.